Get a shiver in the dark. It's raining in the.
All right, everybody, calm down. Everybody, just calm down. Hi, Tim.
Good morning.
It's Swing Thoughts. That's Coach Tim. He's a good guy. I'm golf spiritual leader, of course. Just before we hit record, you said I was resplendent. I was just wearing I've got a golf vest on and I've got a long sleeve shirt underneath it. And what was the word you used? Resplendent? Is that what you said?
Resplendent, yes.
No, and I said, well, the reason I put this on is that earlier this morning I spilled food on the shirt I had underneath this. And then I put this on to cover it up for the Humble and Fred show because we do our show live on Facebook. And then I went upstairs to get something to eat in between the shows, and I spilled more food on this thing. So I just didn't feel like putting on a third layer so that I didn't have food during the YouTube version of our show.
Yeah. Well, it's good for you to be conscious of your sartorial splendor and to share how, that you are humble. You're willing to let us know your difficulties of shepherding food from whatever vessel it is into your mouth.
Well, I don't know. I think a lot of guys are like this, but let me turn this on. Okay, there we go. I eat too fast. I know I do. And watching the Blue Jays the last couple of nights, I'm sitting there just going through my big snack when I'm watching sports, especially like baseball or something. I eat a lot of sunflower seeds.
Well, of course, just right. Yep. Just like the players act.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you ever, because it's a common, like a nervous energy, but I go from sunflower seeds, then I had popcorn, then I had a piece of toast later. And I was wearing this other shirt that I have on underneath this. And I got up this morning and I was going to wear it for the Humble and Fred show. I thought, it's no big deal. It's just Fred and Dan and some people that watch us. And then I looked at myself in the mirror and it's just everything it was like a food Rorschach test. Everything I ate last night by inning. There's the spits, here's some cheese, here's some of the crunchy bar that I had too, Tim.
Oh my God. So I got to ask you, man.
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, the game three, which didn't go as we hoped. I stayed with it till 1:30 in the morning. And then I've just finally gave up. I needed to have some kind of a day yesterday. So I know there's people who stayed up to 3 in the frickin' morning.
Yeah, it was 2:50 is when it ended. It was 18 innings.
Yeah, insane. So how long did you hang in?
Here's the thing. You know the kids have this phrase FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah. So
I'm watching the game and I get to the 10th inning and it's about 10 after 12. And I usually get up at 5:30 to do the Humble and Fred show. And we start at 7:30. So I thought I've got to get some sleep. And as I sort of went, okay, Blue Jays, I've given you all I can. And I stopped at about 12:15 thinking I was going to miss out. Although as I was going to sleep, I thought, what if I miss out on like the greatest play that's ever happened in baseball? But then I was actually felt good that it went 18 innings and all I missed was an 18th inning home run. Anyway.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And our good friend Marcus has joined us.
Our guest is here. All right.
I'm gonna hit admit.
Yeah, let him in, and then I'll hit the big intro and
let him in.
Yeah, there he is.
Hi guys.
There he is. Hi, Marcus. I'm gonna.
Hi, how you doing?
Great. I have a big intro for you. Don't start. I've got the whole thing. This is very professional.
You just got to be patient, young man.
Just be patient because we got a big intro and it's going to be like, oh my gosh, this is like a real show. Oh my goodness. All right, let me get the music here. All right. Our guest today, Tim, is one of the most insightful and down-to-earth golf coaches I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. He has built a strong reputation for blending modern golf science with a refreshingly simple way of explaining the game, whether it's understanding movement patterns, managing your swing tendencies, or learning how to make practice actually translate. He has a gift for turning complicated ideas into something every golfer can use. I got on a plane and flew to London to work with him for 3 days, and almost no one in my life thought that was weird.
And everyone should know that he lives in Toronto, Canada. So I meant a big long flight across water and everything. It wasn't just like from Manchester to wherever.
Like, I learned a lot about myself, and the one thing I learned was most people already thought I was a bit of a golf nerd and kind of crazy. Now, though, you're going to find out why. Welcome to our program, Marcus Bell. Hello, sir. How are you, my friend?
Hi, gents. Wow, what an intro. It's an absolute pleasure. Very excited to be here and to see you again, Howard. And
it's great to see you, boss.
It was fantastic. Nice to meet you, Tim. And it was a brilliant 3 days, wasn't it? It was amazing having you as part of the group. The kind of for you to experience what GRF Golf is all about, because it's a real 3 days gives us a real opportunity for an immersion, because that's what it really needs. It needs a complete reinvention of how you perceive the game, how you perceive yourself, really, how you in terms of adapting to the game. So it's I'm sure we'll get into all this.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I mean, I've been to a golf school one other time in my life, which is a friend of ours, my buddy, tour striker, Marty Chuck. But it was different, and I didn't really know what to expect. And I've been trying to explain to people like Tim and other friends of mine, you know, I think everyone wants to know, like, okay, what did you learn? Like, was it worth it? You know, what kind of things? And everyone wants to know, and this is where we'll sort of, as a jumping off point, Tim and Marcus, is everyone wants to know like golfers are always looking for a little tip. Like, what did you learn? What little thing?
What was the secret?
What's the secret? Yeah. Exactly. and I've been hesitant to try and explain it to people. And you're all going to find out why, because it's not as easily explained as, you know, put your elbow here and this is what happens on your backswing. And part of the reason is Marcus, this character you're all about to meet, has a master's in sports biomechanics, including skill acquisition, as well as an interest in sports engineering and sports science as it relates to motion in general. I've been trying to explain to you, Marcus, by saying this guy, he's got a background in golf. He was a high-level player to begin with, but at some point, your interest in how the body moves sort of took over your career path and helped you develop the system that is GRF, Ground Reaction Force. So maybe we'll start there. And rather than get into your bio, people can look you up. But let's talk a little bit about how what you're interested in is different and how it's different in terms of the regular world of golf. I know that's a lot by way of introducing you again, but I think people need to know your background at least that much to get a sense of why you're different and how the coaching you do is so different.
Yeah, I mean, try and wrap it up in a nutshell. Really, I was really fortunate to be exposed to a lot of high-level players when I first kind of turned pro. Being surrounded by elite players from an early age, really, I was kind of fortunate to be in that kind of environment. Quickly realised where my kind of playing performance lied in terms of maybe future in the game. But I was always very passionate about coaching. I've got very passionate coaches as bosses. They were coaching nowadays major winners. They were coaching back in the day. Padraig Harrington, Darren Clark, Paul McGinley, Lee Westwood, people like this. So really fortunate to be in that environment and really absorbing that from a very green, 19 years old, kind of turned pro, just but immersed in that high performance environment and quite a different environment as well. They were already kind of mavericks in their own right, these coaches who were doing it different. So I suppose that kind of helps shape you and paves the way forward in terms of how you see what you're looking for, because that's something that's been kind of really at the heart of my coaching. Is I'm always asking why, and I'm searching constantly searching, like we all are as golfers. We're all searching. I'm not searching for the quick coaching tip, like a swing tip. I'm trying to search for, I want to go deeper and deeper. I was coaching in Germany for 5 years. Very fortunate. The guy I was working with, he'd been trained by Pete Cowan. I brought this kind of background with me. We got a very special academy we developed, but nevertheless, after about 5 years, I was still asking myself, yeah, there's got to be more to it than this. This is not coaching. This is not the end of it. It's kind of,
Marcus, if I could interject, were you reacting like this new way of doing things? Was that kind of a understanding that instruction at one point was put your right elbow here, do this with your left knee, hit this position, very technical oriented in terms of like do this, do that. Is that kind of what you're reacting against and you saw a new way?
yeah, I was, I think, it was, I was doing the same thing day in, day out. I was teaching, if you like, yeah, I was prescribing. I was, I was instructing. I don't know what I call myself these days. A coach, a coach is there's really no word for it. I'm a facilitator, if you like, because I'm just creating a tacit learning environment where people are free to explore, and it's a journey of self-discovery. And my question is, do you enjoy moving as much as you enjoy the golf shot? Is the movement as enjoyable or more enjoyable? Can you get more enjoyment out of actually moving than actually the golf shot that you're hitting? Because the two are very interconnected, but the movement creates the golf shot. So are you truly enjoying the golf shot if you're not enjoying the movement too? Is it kind of so? People have become so obsessed with technique. And look, I'm talking 25 years ago. Um, I was in that world, looking at it through a slightly different lens, but nevertheless, um, indoctrinated, maybe a strong word, but definitely influenced by pretty much anecdotal literature. Although the science was there from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and that's what really changed my life is when I went to university, because I came back from Germany and I dived straight into an MSc in sports biomechanics. And I was very fortunate that I just happened by stroke of luck to be living very close to an institute that is at the forefront of sports engineering and sports science, which at the time had mavericks in the skill acquisition world who were pioneers. And as most institutes, as most kind of academic institutes are like, they don't really kind of publicize themselves, market themselves. But they had England teams. Justin Rose was going there. I mean, in England, boxers, they've got boxers like Kell Brook going. They were a very high performance environment. They designed ping putters in the sports engineering. They designed Premier League footballs. They designed the team site, the bikes, the cycles for the Team GB and the Chris Hoy days in the 2012 Olympics. It was the skeleton bob. It was like they've got Olympic. It was an Olympic level facility, and I was so fortunate that I was there from a golfing aspect. So often it's not what you're learning; it's the people that you're networking
Yes.
with and how you
Yeah.
learn. So it opened a whole world to me. The library for me was a whole new world. I went into there and I went into this university library and there was golf science. And I was like, what the hell's this? I've just learnt golf from a PJ manual, and no disrespect. I mean, but I was like, well, there's a whole different world here. And I'd just suddenly been exposed to it. And D-plane was around in 1994. So Jorgensen in the physics of golf he coined D-plane. And so this science has been there way before even TrackMan brought it into the domain. And force plates, pressure plates, 3D. There was kinesiology. There was, I mean, it was basically just a playground for me. And then, of course, I start to search the people who are writing the papers. So I then start to source them. I mean, Dr. Kwon was doing a lot of stuff back then in South Korea. At a
Yeah, for
golf institute
context,
out there.
for people who aren't as big a nerds as we are, Dr. Kwan is he's now based out of, I believe he's in Dallas, Texas. He's another science of movement guy, and not to I don't want to
Yeah.
cut you off, but I do want to start to bring just what Marcus is giving us is just a sort of a bit of a background of what you were interested in, everything from neuroscience to osteopathy and and physiotherapy and gait analysis and all this stuff.
Yes.
And I know a lot of our listeners are going, okay, well that seems impressive, but let's get to the science of movement as it relates to golf and how movement because what you said, I don't know if everyone caught it, like enjoying the movement versus the golf shot. Because a lot of instructors, the most traditional golf instruction is, and it's been part of the legend of golf, is the golf ball will tell you everything. But in fact, that's not true, because you can manipulate the golf ball to make a pleasing shot, but you may not be moving correctly, and you're not really learning how to move correctly to produce the golf shot. So maybe let's get to the point where, and again, I don't want to rush you along, but we do have. I want to talk about how movement and what you've discovered about how movement influences golf swings, and how you said to us several times in the 3 days we spent together, guys, this thing we're doing, this exercise we're doing, isn't your golf swing, but it's inside your golf swing.
Yeah, just to kind of go back to reverse engineer all this back to essentially how we interact with the ground. So force creates motion, but how we have to move to create force. So so there are already forces at play that we're creating to use ground reaction force. But the whole thing about ground reaction force and GRF Golf is you are reacting. You are reacting. It's okay. The ground is not reacting to you. You are reacting to the ground. So it says ground reaction force, but you're the reaction. So the first thing is, how are you reacting? Do you recognize how you react? And so how do we use our environment? So, for example, if as a golf coach, I want to see the real mover. I want to see the mover in the person. When I see you as a golfer, I'm not seeing you. I'm seeing a version of you. I'm seeing you almost act out to script. I'm seeing a manipulator of movement. I'm seeing some concept behind movement. I'm seeing a very deliberately actioned movement. I'm seeing very almost overload of conscious thought, which is very fragile. Once that's challenged, once you introduce levels of variability, it starts to destabilize, and you start to lose a sense of where you are, orientation. The proprioception gets seriously challenged. But we're not challenging that in practice, you see. We don't train like we intend to play. That's the problem. We play golf. I mean, we talk a lot about the discipline. There's as much about mindset as there is the physical skill set in a golf school or a lesson with me, because the mindset drives the skill set. And so, and your body is able to operate on a very high level. You're able to process many things at once, many bits of information, but still function. Like driving your car, for example, you could be thinking of lots of things, driving your car, you are able to function. So movement is it's reactive, it's self-organizing, and it's unconditional. You are not applying conditions to how you move in every form of your life. If I throw you a ball, I see the real mover. I see the mover in you. If I kick you a ball, you don't have to be a pitcher in baseball. You don't have to be a hitter. You don't have to be a world-class kind of golfer. In England, it's cricket. You don't have to. I mean, USA cricket now is doing really well. You don't have to be elite level movers, but I see the real mover. So now, sorry, Canada, by the way.
No worries, man. It's just, but dude, I love where you're going with this.
I really don't like. So I say don't like as a golf coach. I find it's the perception of what coaching is. It's the perception of being a learner of golf. There's conditions associated with it. There's attachments. There's connotation to how I'm going to learn. And there's also stigma attached to movement and things like, I've got to move like this. We've been conditioned to believe there's a certain way of moving. I mean, if you get a group of coaches in a room and you put a golf swing on a screen, you're going to get some similar stuff getting thrown up. Steep, shallow, strong, face, inside, outside. And most golfers, I mean, it's one of the only sports where you can be just a recreational player, very kind of maybe once a week, you are kind of a 28 handicapper, 18 handicapper, yet you are analyzing yourself like a tour coach and a tour coach.
Totally. Yeah.
And you are comparing yourself to the world's greatest, and you're seeing the 1% of the 1% of the 1% perform every week. And the problem as well in golf is you are comparing yourself to the professional aggregate result. You're comparing yourself to par. So and then there's a detachment, there's a dissonance between actually learning the game and actually playing the game. And driving ranges, they're amazing, and now with the advent of launch monitors on the range, it's absolutely fantastic. But it comes heavily loaded with very influential kind of. It's very the environment is very influencing in how you use this technology. So I think the thing about myself, and Howard I'm sure will attest to this too, is that we only used the pressure plate kind of once in the 3 days, but we used it in a very it's an investigation.
Yeah,
and we're looking
a much more organic way.
100%.
Yeah.
And
so I'm gonna
Jump in here, Timmy.
Yeah. So, man, Marcus, you got a lot to share, man. I love it.
This half hour isn't going to be enough. I promise.
No, sorry, guys. I'm trying to spout as much as I can, but I'm going to.
No, there's no stories necessary because we'll have you back, sir. We definitely will have you back. But in this wonderful stuff that you're laying out here, I wanted to just drill down a bit for what I think people could relate to. And I'll just share one thing quickly about my coaching. I've done putting clinics for a number of years, and I do this one thing where I go, okay, now I just want you to enjoy your stroke. Yeah. And people look at me weird. Like, what? Like, aren't I supposed to do anything? No, enjoy your stroke. And it's like this weirdest thing for them. And then they come back and then they have like, I never knew I did this, or I experienced something. So it was very cool. But what I'm getting at is that when you talked about they act out a script, to me, that is just the classic get in your own way in terms of people have the sense of that I have to do this. I have to start my downswing, whatever you want to call it, with my lower body. And to me, that just interrupts this flow, the natural movement. Is that kind of what you're getting at in terms of, hey, folks, you don't need to be super conscious about doing all this stuff the right way?
100%, Tim. I mean, the most complex movement we make is walking, and no one knows how they do it. And we didn't start by walking. We don't learn to walk. We actually roll, crawl. When some people get up earlier onto their feet, not that that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's that generally we find our way. And the brain connects through movement as well. So through fetal development, the brain is connecting through movement, and through the birthing canal, we're going through some serious movements which are connecting the brain reflex wise, so that it's actually paving the way for how we move,
who knew
the golf swing started in the birth canal?
No, wait, so I'm not going to go into neurodevelopmental delay, but you can almost predict movement, by the way.
We've been doing this show for 10 years. 10 years we've been doing this show. And ladies and gentlemen, the very first mention of the birth canal. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Listen, when I told you he was interesting, I wasn't fucking around. This guy.
So we test for aberrant reflexes as well. So the GRF system, a lot of people, look, it's not a smoke screen. The GRF system, my training system, has many underlying layers to it, which as a coach, I can start to see reflexive behavior. I can start to see how, strange things happen when you intend to move the body a certain way, other parts of the body. It's an interactive, completely integrated system. So you're never working on one aspect alone. And if ever you are focusing on an aspect of the golf swing, you're looking at the result of something else. So you're not looking at that moment in time that you're looking at on that screen is the product of things that are happening way before you actually see that event.
Which is another thing you've said several times when we were together, but I want you to sort of reiterate it now, which is we tend as golfers to get a tip or have a thing, and then it's almost like, okay, well, just now if I just do this one thing the same way for the rest of my golf life, everything will be great.
Or at least the front nine.
And that's why golf tips and little bits, that's why they come and go, so that they're so transitory, because, as my buddy Paulie said, everything will work once. But your system, or the GFR system, and the research that you've done is different, because it's not just one moment in time, as you were about to say. It's not just, if you do this certain thing, then all will be well. It's an understanding of movement in general, and how learning to move at adjudicating yourself based on movement, not on shots. That really is kind of a way to open up the, as you also say, a way of exploring your own golf swing as opposed to being told, do this and everything will be fine.
Exactly. I mean, it's not a got it, lost it situation. That scenario doesn't exist. You always possess it. Most people, I mean, no one is maximizing their potential, even who you see, even the top players. And they we then it's it's not relatable. In fact, we can't even relate to each other on a level of feeling. And the golf swing's a feeling. It's over in 1.5 seconds. It's happening at high speed. So you do not want to be learning this thing consciously, because you're not going to be firing it conscious. It's not going to be the firing patterns, the rate of recruitment. It's subconscious. You're going to be aware of something. That's a different question. What are you aware of? Now, how attuned are you to your movement to enable you to apply that level of awareness to adapt? Because it's about adaptation, skill adaptation. And you don't know what you possess to adapt. So I go through like a 4-stage process. The first process as a coach is, because even the player doesn't know what they're capable of. And as a coach, I'm certainly not aware. So the body gives you all the answers if you ask it the right questions. So you've got to disrupt the system, and then order starts to emerge dependent on the task constraints of the environment. So you start to manipulate the environment, and then you start to see emergent behavior. And that can be in the form of a golf swing. It could be in the form of anything. So and then you start to see how the person cues. You start to see how they're responding. Now you start to see the plasticity in the system and what you can start to work with, and how you can start to shape that and help allow them to it. But I'm not prescribing movement. I'm allowing them to form this themselves. And the performance is born out of the form. So they can start to recognize, they can simulate and almost visualize what is going to take place from that simulation before they even do it. Without even moving, they can probably play the swing out in their mind. They can can they recreate, can they recall movement? So you're challenging the system, because on the golf course, you're going to be challenged with a lot more than this. We're practicing too stable an environment. And so the 4-stage process I go through is, first of all, self-realization on an internal level. So kind of, do you recognize, I mean, language loads our thinking. So and it's so open to each individual's interpretation. It's so, I mean, you saw it, Howard. I give the
love
same
that phrase.
instruction.
Language loads our thinking is great.
So we are, if you think about, there was 4 or 5 people in the group, 5 people on the first day of profiling. We're going through a protocol. Everybody gets the same exercise as a standard protocol to look at movement, but everybody does it different. Everybody does it different. Yet they've just heard the same words. They've seen me demonstrate. Yet I'll get 5 different versions. None are right, none are wrong. It's just their interpretation. That's them expressing themselves in response to the information they've just been given and their intention. I'm seeing how they react, they move relative to their intention. And often it's you can see there's a big disconnect. So there needs to be, to start with, there needs to be a level of a higher. We need to really attune ourselves to what is actually taking place. Otherwise, this notion of feeling real, which everyone talks about, of course that exists. But what we have to do is we have to attune ourselves to this very noisy, very variable environment. And the body, I'm talking about the body, the variance of movement with the body. So we go through this process of self-realization, then we learn to self-actuate. So what do we recognize? Remember, your body does not know that your hand is a hand. It doesn't know. Your brain doesn't. It doesn't know. We've called it a hand. We've called it a foot.
It's a concept.
It's concept. So movement is so conceptually driven, but we've got to strip ourselves of this. We've got to recontextualize how we perceive this.
Okay, so I'm going to use that as my jumping off point, jumping in point, if you will. So, we've been doing this show for 10 years, over 300 episodes, and largely people think of it as the mental game that we talk about. So people think, if I think the right thoughts, I'll play well. But I think what you're getting at in many ways is that if we experience our body, if we feel what's happening, then we can put that into language that helps us understand it. Is that kind of what you're driving at?
100%. Yeah, you create your own literacy. So, but you've got to understand the vocabulary first. So, you explore, you create what we talk about, the toolkit. What is your toolkit? And it's through 100%, Tim. It's experiential learning. It's all about creating tactile feedback loops. So it's about sensory input creates motor output. Your body can be processing many things, but it functions. You're walking down the street, you're reacting to your environment. Yeah, your mind can wander off. You can be doing multiple things, but you're able to move and operate subconsciously. And the golf swing is the same. So it's kind of, well, how do you train this system? And that's exactly the applications and the philosophy and the methodology that I use. And you're absolutely right. Most people think it's mind, body, motion. In my mind, it's motion, body, mind. Because as I talked about earlier in the early development process, when we first, before we enter the world,
in the birth canal,
movement connects the brain. And I don't want to go into this because the testing,
sorry,
you can predict movement in the first. I mean, you can start movement as your movement maps are in the first 3 years of your life. I mean, they are pretty much, they're getting hardwired in terms of your ability to interact with the world. Of course, this is all you can as we do, because again, the GRF system has bilateral integration in there. So we're starting to create the connections, and anytime in life you can create these connections, and then suddenly as a performer you can it takes on a whole new level. And then from the self-actualization, so once you go from that self-actualization, you go into a state of self-regulation. Now you can start to actually become more task constraint focused in terms of external, with the intention of what you're going to do with this movement potential you possess. And then when you start to play around through the training processes and the protocols, you can start to self-optimize. And the last stage is self-optimization. You don't have to go through this conscious associative state. You don't have to learn that way. You can go straight to you can learn in an elaborate state. You can learn in an elaborate state. You don't have to go. It's not a driving lesson, this thing. People aren't learning to drive a car.
But
movement's not learned like that.
The way that most instruction is, I'm sorry, because we got a lot to get in. The way that most instruction is presented, though, is a very conscious, you tell me, I try and do what you're telling me, and then we both decide, based on my interpretation of what you've told me and how my body is supposed to react, then we decide, did I or did I not complete the task correctly, we'll say, right? Yeah. And as I'm just reading something that I'm going to read you something I wrote you after I came home. I said, somewhere around day 2, I realized I've been looking in all the wrong places. I never understood the swing in the manner that you presented it. And I'm aware that I'm only scratching the surface. Now, I say that because listeners of this show will know that nobody could have tried harder than me. It's like if I couldn't find it, nobody's finding it, because, you know, I've made this my life's work. As my older brother says, I have a PhD in this stuff. And I'm not saying this as an advocate of your system, although I would say anybody listening that wants to spend the winter learning about the swing in a way that you're not familiar with, I'd recommend watching this character on YouTube. Because as you can see, he has no trouble putting sentences together. That being said, so when I said that to you, I said that at lunch on the second day. I said, you know, I just kind of leaned over to you and I said, man, I just realized I've been searching for the answers here. I really have. I've given it a good college try, but I've been searching in the wrong areas. And do you think that, now I'm going to ask the question that a lot of golfers do that. A lot of golfers are searching in the wrong spots.
I think a lot of golfers are trying to please their coach. I think most golfers are I think they're asking for confirmation from the coach. The empowerment of the responsibility of their own learning, of their own game, has been removed, and this makes a more fragile character in the arena of
Absolutely,
performance.
100%.
So what happens is we've created this more dependent environment where the coach we're buying into a belief system. You're almost and that's what we do generally when we're going from coach to coach to coach. We are completely shifting our belief system.
We give your power away.
Yeah, you're abdicating your power to
and most
somebody
golf
else.
coaches, exactly, and most golf coaches are contradictory when you go from one to one. They can be talking about the same thing, but and of course it's all good, well natured. They're all trying to help in their own way, and very successful. And I'm not saying there's any right or wrong way, by the way. I'm not saying my way is the right way. I'm just saying it's a way. There's lots of ways to get results, and and there's lots of very successful good coaches. But look at it from this kind of alternative viewpoint, from a non-linear, this is a dynamical systems approach, where we are allowing the person, that individual, to, through the journey of self-discovery, find their golf swing, find their and because they're joining the dots themselves, it sticks. Because they are doing the work. They are not This is not writing lines at a desk at school in detention.
That's so
exactly.
This is not right. I will not take the club on the inside 100 lines. Right? This is the golf swing's a feeling, and you have to explore all opportunities. Or you have to freedom of expression. This is not most golf coaching focuses on a reductionist approach. Almost, we're not in pursuit. We're always in avoidance. Can't go here, can't go there. Why is that? Well, my coach says I can't do this because I do this, and this. And I'm sure it's all good information. It's right, but is that really empowering that learner to take control of their own destiny in terms of going on the golf course, reacting to the affordances of the environment, recognizing their ability to adapt and allow themselves to just freewheel. But the problem is that ability is suppressed because of the way we train and the way we think when we're training.
Well, it's counterintuitive. Yeah. So
the intuition's lost because the experience just it's never been there. So it's like if you take a golf swing and if, for example, you were talking earlier, Howard, about taking the club back. What's moving that golf club? Okay, it's whereas if you throw a ball, okay, you're never aware of where you're taking your hand. You're not trying to position it in space. You're allowing your body to respond, and so that response, that active response, which is what happens when you might feel everyone's experienced a perfect golf shot, right? And you don't know how you did it, and it was like that reactive, that state that you were in is what we need to train. We need to train with the dynamics of the motion.
That's so counterintuitive because our society, we are conditioned to think, and I think it comes from the school system in so many ways that we're brought up, is that I don't know enough. I need an authority to tell me what the fuck to do. And in fact, most golfers think that they're broken because they can't do it the right way. So they give up their power, like we said, and will give it over to a teacher who we expect to tell us to do the right thing, or especially now online. We go to this bottomless ocean of instruction. And I go, if I do what the eminent guru tells me to do, I will become enlightened and get salvation. And it never happens, because what you're talking about is counterintuitive to the way we're brought up. And so I'll just try to sum this up by saying, and everyone knows who's listened to this podcast for a number of years that I'm a big fan of Fred Shoemaker. And Fred Shoemaker, I think, is saying somewhat that you're saying. It's not the brilliant things the coach says. It's the brilliant things that the student says and experiences.
Inside, and we're both Fred Shoemaker fans and have had him on the show. And I'll just pick up on what Tim's saying is, as somebody that's had great instructors and been lucky enough to be, excuse me, in the presence of some, fairly well-known teachers, I can tell you from having experienced the GRF, school, that I was telling somebody one day, they said, "What'd you do?" I said, "Well, we didn't touch a golf club till way after lunch." Because we were exploring other patterns of movement, as you say, that are within the golf swing. But it wasn't just do this, check, do that, check, and then you'll produce some kind of result. It's funny you brought that up, Tim, because I was thinking about that when I was with you, that there's a very shoemaker vibe about what your instruction's like.
Yeah, I spent a couple of days with Fred in the past, and he loved what I was doing. In fact, he got me to do a bit of presenting in the 2 days with what I do.
Oh,
And
nice.
Timothy Galway, I spent some time with Timothy. Tim's a legend.
Yeah, of course, inner tennis.
Absolutely amazing people.
Can I jump in and say, when you said anecdotal literature, were you referring to Galway and Shoemaker in terms of their books on coaching, inner game, etc.?
No, I was talking more about the kind of, for example, and I don't want to tread into dangerous waters because I'm.
Oh, we enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, just tread away.
I'm very
Yeah,
respectful.
go for it.
Don't listen. We respect nobody. I just want to say something though. I'm getting a little bit of a little bit of echo because I think you're listening to us on your computer speaker. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, just turn it down a tiny little bit.
Yeah, turn your volume down.
And listen,
Sorry.
we've got about I'm going to say we got about 5 to 6 minutes left.
Really?
No
That's
problem.
all?
I'll wrap up quick. But
No.
Golf
Just
my
say-
way.
But feel
Golf. I mean,
free
golf
to
my
be
when a
disrespectful
when a
all
book
you
is
want.
when a book is written golf my way. That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
And we've got all this sports science. We've got we've got advancement in technology. Yet we still, and rightly so, these were amazing performers, but we're still working to books from like 1957, Hogan Fundamentals. And that was his version of events of what he does. And even he says afterwards that it wasn't actually the book's not actually aligned with what he actually did, what was actually happening. What he felt was there was a difference. And so it's an interpretation of events from that individual. But in golf, then this kind of this obviously this evolves and accumulates, and it becomes truths. And there's almost a dogma that kind of takes place that people are starting to adhere to. And I think with you pick up a golf club and straight away there's because of the way we've been conditioned through whatever medium, there's conditions applied, and there's a connotation associated with picking a golf club of how you're going to move with it, what you can do, what you can't do. But if you remove that first and start to explore your body's capability, and rewrite the whole body schema first, because the golf club is essentially a prosthetic limb. So it becomes an extension of your anatomy. The golf club becomes your hand. Okay, it's an extension of your arm. You don't think about where your hand is. You don't need to know where it is. You can put your hand behind your head and touch it with the other hand, and you don't need to look or check anything. You can be like, your body has that sixth sense. You've got to trust it, and it's teaching it. And so once you start to recognize that behavior and you're able to essentially let go. Everyone talks about letting go in golf. What are you letting go of? Okay, the mental side of things you can let go, but if you're slicing it and you letting go is not going to probably change things. It's about skill adaptation. How do you let your body explore? And it's got to be an enjoyable process because it's emotionally driven. Movement is emotionally driven, and so a coach has to create that very kind of engaging, a fun, challenging learning environment. And essentially what starts to happen is, as you experienced, Howard, you start to recognize how you can move your body in a very different way, how you perceive the movement differently, the sensory feedback loops, what you're experiencing is different, how you cue your movement changes, the affordances change of what you're able to do and how you're able to use that golf club, and a repertoire develops. And the repertoire is, he said, that's you expressing yourself, and this is growing and growing and growing. And this is what we need to do. This is what we do in life. Okay, we adapt to our environment, and we've got to challenge ourselves in that environment. And so with the GRF system, for example, my training system, it's challenging your movement, it's challenging your perception of your movement, and through that spirals a a heightened level of attunement to movement, and therefore awareness takes on it takes on a different level completely.
I want to echo what Tim said. Now that sort of the main part of our golf season is done, and we're featuring a few different guests than we normally do, and I think we'd love to have you back because there's still more to explore. I don't think we really even got into some of the way that you train, but I would ask just a couple quick things at the end, and I'm not asking for. This isn't. I don't need you to give me a compliment, but I am just curious. From the first day that you saw me swing, that first morning, which was the only time that day, we started around 9 a.m. and all of us, the coaches, watched us hit balls, and that was the last time we hit a ball, probably for about 15 minutes, and we didn't hit another golf ball till much later in the day. Did you notice, or could you see differences in my movement from that first day to the third day?
Yeah. 100%. What I see is, but I'm looking at, and this is what starts to emerge in terms of your own awareness as well. You're looking at what appear to be kind of, they're called like micro moves, or you're talking about very small features of a movement, which are actually very, very big movements, very influential on how you move. But you start to see how the body's responding and reacting, and you're starting to see a different level of fluidity in your form start to take place. Like when you first arrived, I just saw a person who's dying to break free. Okay, I saw someone who's taken on a lot of information, very, very high level player, highly skilled, but very good at manipulating, very good. And you even said this yourself. So there's an intellect there that is driving it.
That's
very,
right.
very consciously aware of what's taking place, and able, because of the hand-eye coordination, the skill level you possess, you're able to manipulate at high speed. But it doesn't feel authentic. It's not an organic process that you're undertaking. It's not throwing a ball. It's not kicking a ball. It is
100%.
I'm watching my hand move whilst I am throwing this ball. So now I've got to move my head quicker, and that's going to throw off and there's disruption to the balance. There's disruption. So the body's not really performing naturally. The kinetic chain isn't really firing in its most functional way, and so you are having to compensate, and a very good compensator. I mean, and there's a level of tension in the system that you have to operate with to manipulate and maintain some level of control. But as soon as you're challenged, as soon as you want to do something different, like when you want to go for more power, when you want to go for that, always shows up when people pick up the driver, and it shows so much. And when they go for speed, then you start to see the true where is the driver of this motion.
But one of the things that came up for me for sure was, and I say this, I've been able to intellectually describe a golf swing. Tim and I could have had 300 shows on golf swings in general because we're nerds. But I said to you, I've always felt that there was something interrupting the natural flow of my swing, because I just have educated hands, as our buddy Mark Evershed used to say to me. You got educated hands, you're gonna find a way to put it on the ball. But I would tell you, for the other guys that are in our age category, learning what I've learned and learning to move in a little different way, it's a lot less stress on your body. Because as you say, when you have tension, when you introduce tension anywhere in the system, whether that's the tension of intention, I have to put the club somewhere, but there's tension introduced to the system, it hurts. Like, there's a lot of manipulation, my lower back, all these things a lot of things that guys our age suffer with are as a result, and I'm sure you've seen it too, Coach Tim, are as a result of being tense and not being able to let go, even though you don't know what you're supposed to let go. Is that rings true for me, at least.
Well, I see it. I'll just say it, Marcus. I'll just say that I see it in players that I coach. So I coach everyone from like beginners to D1 players, and they're always concerned about whether they're doing it right.
Yeah.
And what I'm always saying to them is like, look, you're the product of millions of years of evolution. Do you really think that you know better than millions of years of evolution than like 100 years of collected information about the fucking golf swing? Really? I mean, let's be instinctual here. Let's hit a golf shot, see a target, and bang. We don't have to think this through. I mean, and that's what I'm hearing you say. So it's kind of it's cool to hear you. You're connecting some dots for me in a big way.
It's a primitive action, hitting, throwing. It's inherent in the system. I mean, we are born movers. We're born to move, and at the end of the day, we talked about tension. Often people are trying to create the power, and then using the same parts of the body or the same sequencing to then control that power.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, once you start to tap into your true potential, you start to appreciate your body. You appreciate what it's offering you. It's offering you an invitation. There's an invitation there with a golf shot, and the body's offering you an opportunity to adapt to that. And it's how you respond to that invitation. How do you recognize yourself in terms of the schema that you possess here? Movement map. The movement map exists there. There's a repertoire that you've got. You've got to, then you can start to lay trust in the body. But if you're apprehensive, if you're not sure, if you've just been working on these particular movements and then suddenly it all starts to go a bit haywire, you become lost because you don't know. You've got no sense of orientation. You have no reference. So yeah, it goes into multiple layers, but definitely it'll first of all most people aren't reflective enough and introspective enough on how honest enough, I would say. It's almost like they're blatant. Even people go, "Oh, that's my coach." It's like they're blaming people for their own errors.
That's right.
And it's like and that's and also we expect results so quick in this world of self gratification, instant gratification.
Absolutely.
The problem is it's affecting our thinking and it's affecting how we learn.
Well, what I love too is, and I'm just going to wrap it up by saying I could go on. We could do this for hours, but one of the things that you sort of introduced into my lexicon was adjudicating the motion, not the shot. How do you feel about the way you made the motion? Was it a 1, a 2, a 3? And if it wasn't a 1, why wasn't it? And a way of self-reflection and of taking ownership of it. That's where we got to end because I got to go golfing. Listen, can you just do me a favor? Can you just stick here for 1 minute after we say goodbye?
Yeah, of course.
Because I'll say this: you're one of the greatest coaches I've ever met, but messaging you back and forth is like my teenage daughters, because it's like I get a note, then like 3 days later I get a response. So just don't go away now that I have you in front of me. Coach Tim O'Connor at o'connorgolf.ca. Look at the Substack. I get it. You should get it too. And of course, Tim's book, Getting Unstuck. HumbleandFredRadio.com produces this program. We're happy to have you guys on the show as always. And of course, check out all the other programs that we do as well. This show is brought to you by Par for Success. Go to par4success.com/HumbleandFred and GRF.com to find out more about Marcus. And what a great appearance. Thank you very much, my friend. Don't go away. Just stay there for a second. Tim, I'll see you next week.
Yep.
And
I'm hanging around for this little chat too.
Oh yeah, you are, because you're hosting the Zoom chat. Okay, we'll be back next week. We have another interesting guest. Tell us who we're talking to next week. Everyone's
Jim Waldron. He's a really interesting cat who brings together all kinds of interesting experiences, from Krishnamurti to John Lilly, all kinds of cool stuff.
All right. Well, it's again this is the second season of the Humble and Tim show. The second season, and it's we're gonna be speaking to interesting people over the course of the winter. So stick with us. We'll see you next week.